I'm excited to announce that I'll be participating in the 2022 Makers That Rock collaboration. In this collaboration, woodworkers and other makers like me craft recreations of famous rock and roll albums. I've chosen to recreate the Beatles Let It Be album in wood. To recreate the album art, I'll be using techniques similar to those that I used to create this Harry Potter inspired broom holder. To cut out the pieces for the Harry Potter inspired broom holder, I used my bandsaw with a small scrolling blade installed. It worked okay, but it wasn't ideal. I think the bandsaw with the scrolling blade installed would work just fine for this project as well. But I thought this would be a good excuse to try out a different tool, specifically the Shopsmith Jigsaw Model 610. And it just so happened a used 610 came up on the Facebook Marketplace at a very good price. In this video, I'll get this used jigsaw set up and ready to go for my Makers That Rock build. Now, I'm pretty excited to have this tool, and I suppose I could jump right in and start using it. Something that I've learned is that as excited as I may be on that first day, the best thing to do is give everything a good cleaning, look at the manual, and then put it back together. In the long run, I'll be much happier. I think I'll start with the upper arm. So here's the upper arm completely disassembled and cleaned. Some parts I did not disassemble, it didn't seem necessary. I simply cleaned it with paper towels, Q-tips, and acetone. And it only took a few tools to disassemble. I'm going to go ahead and put it back together, and I'm going to put a light coat of sewing machine oil on everything. I've got the arm and head fully reassembled. Everything's clean and lubricated, as it should per the manual. So I'm going to set that aside and move on to the main body. I expect this is going to be quite a bit more dirty because there is an oil reservoir in here. I've got the oil reservoir open for the main body, and I want to give you a little sense of what this looks like. I mean, this is old oil. I'm not sure if it's effective anymore. There's certainly not enough. We have some sediment here. So this is sort of the reason I like to do some maintenance on these types of items. Here I've got everything disassembled and cleaned as best I can. On the rod here there was a lot of caked on, dried on, burnt on oil. When you have that situation, that oil cake traps basically abrasives that are going to wear your part prematurely. Another thing I'll note is I used a whole bunch of Q-tips to go down into this reservoir and get out all the dirty oil I could. Again, I don't want that dirty oil bearing wood dust and metal filings circulating through this system and abrading all the parts. I got everything in here as clean as I possibly could, and then on the mating surfaces for the gasket, I've cleaned that as best as I could, and there was some oil that was so dried on there I did have to lightly sand it with some sandpaper. I'm very happy to see that this piece is intact. This is a part that could easily break if the internals jam up due to lack of improper lubrication. This part here would just simply snap. Now this isn't maintenance that you would need to do all the time, but I believe this unit's probably 40 years old. So I'm going to reassemble everything, and I'm going to put a light coat of oil as I go, and then when everything's assembled, I'm going to follow the instructions and use this port to fill the oil the rest of the way. I have the main body reassembled and set up on my power station and aligned with the drive. I used about 3/4 of this 4-ounce bottle to fill the reservoir, and since the manual calls for 3 ounces of oil, that math works out. I am a little bit nervous about turning it on for the first time, so I'm going to keep my finger on the switch as I turn it on real quick. So if I hear anything bad, I'll turn it off real quick. Keeping your hand on the switch after a setup change is a tip I heard somewhere on YouTube, and it's something I practice all the time. Everything seems to be working, so there's nothing left to do but try it out. Fingers crossed. Okay, that went well. Moving on to next steps, I have a fine blade installed, I have it tensioned, I have the backer and guide tube set up on the top, I have the guide post set up on the bottom, power station is set all the way to its lowest setting, and I have the spring foot set up to put tension on my piece of scrap. Wow. That is a beautiful cut. This is really exciting. This is much better than I could have done on the bandsaw. That was fun. I'm really happy with how the first few test cuts went on the jigsaw. So it's time to get some practice in on this piece of scrap before I start the real cutting for the Makers That Rock build. While I've got some jigsaw cuts going on in the background, I want to tell you about Scott Markwood's My Growth Greens YouTube channel and his jigsaw video playlist. Scott is a true expert in these machines, and he has several interesting and informative videos on this topic, including discussing the history of this tool at Shopsmith. Well, the jigsaw's working just fine, but I've got a minor oil leak. So I bought some gasket material, printed out an online image of the gasket, and then just traced around and cut it out. I'll reinstall that gasket and fill it with oil and see if that solved the problem. Well, I cut out the gasket, installed it, and originally I thought the oil leak was solved. Actually, it was just slowed down by quite a bit. After about a week, there was some detectable oil on the machine. Maybe I should have used the cork material that came in the kit instead. Or maybe I can use some RTV silicone and try again. I just have to keep an eye on it until I have some time to fix the gasket again. Alright, the jigsaw's working good. I'm ready to start that Makers That Rock build. That video should be out next Friday. If you're interested in that sort of thing, be sure to watch my video next week, along with the videos from the other channels participating in the collaboration. Well, that does it for this woodshop nerdery video. I'll see you next time.